Earlier this morning, somebody sent me this video clip of Trump answering a question on Univision for somebody, a Hispanic man who was asking a question about his farm. I don't usually go into like heavy duty politics. I try to stay on the outskirts of that and focus more on the money issue, but this actually is a money issue. The farmer asked, he says, well, who is going to do all these jobs? Who's, cut the celery and so forth. Like, who's going to do all of this stuff if we lose all of our cheap labor, because most of the cheap labor are here illegally, and that's who I'm hiring is all the illegals, and they'll work super cheap. And then and of course, if you do deport all the illegals, then what's that going to do to food prices? And Trump did this typical Trump answer. Let me go ahead and answer that question a bit better than Don did, because Don's a disgrace to capitalism. And what he should have said was, well, look, you are not entitled to cheap labor. If the currency you're offering to pay people doesn't buy them anything in the country in which you find your farm or where your farm is located, then you need to switch currencies to something that actually does pay for something. If the US dollar is that worthless, and it is, then you need to offer some other kind of trade currency to get people interested. You don't have a right to cheap labor anywhere on this planet, like whether you're in the US or any other country for that matter. There is no such right. So you can do that, or you can go out of business. I mean, like, that should have been the actual answer that he should have given this man, because that would have been the correct answer. To the broader point of like, well, what would that do to food prices? Well, food prices would go way up. Well, of course they would go way up. They would go way up because of the inflation that is created in the US right now, using dollars as the metric. Now, remember, the dollar is not a unit of measurement. The dollar is a scam. The dollar is a Ponzi scheme. It is not an actual currency anymore. It stopped being a currency about 100 years ago, and it turned into just, let's just prop this scheme up. That's why you're seeing the misery index going through the roof. That's why you're seeing Americans wholly unhappy. Like 80% of Americans are completely and thoroughly unhappy with everything going on, yet the stock market's going up into record territory. Yeah, it's because it's a Ponzi scheme. And as soon as you try to take all that money out of the stock market, like I've said on many occasions, if all of you started to try and take the money out of the stock market right now and empty out your 401ks and your IRAs and your Roth IRA and all your crap, okay, your hedge funds, mutual funds, etc., they would start changing laws to where you could no longer take that money out. It would be illegal to take the money out. Yeah, that's because it's a Ponzi scheme, okay? So, yeah, I mean, that's how it should have been answered, Don. In case you were wondering, like, that's how you should have answered that question. You should have answered it directly, and then through basically the business owner and the currency under the bus, and told people the goddamn truth, because that's actually the real truth. Everything I just said, no matter what business you're in, no matter what industry you find yourself, you are not entitled to cheap labor, okay? You can either do it yourself, right, which is what most people did for the longest time. But then there won't be any food. Like, yes, that means that Americans then have to realize that they will have to grow their own food as well. And more Americans are starting to actually get an idea about that as well, because look at the state of food. Look at how everything is becoming crap. Yeah, so that was the honest answer that should have been given.